Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Thursday Chat with Troy. I appreciate you joining us. Cheers to you. Nice cold beer. Alright, I'm sorry about the length of the last one. I didn't have a way to print out those the questions, so I was just reading from the video as y'all saw. This time I got them printed out though. We're gonna go through them fairly quick, I hope. And I will tell you up front, I'm getting a lot of questions, and I am so grateful that all of you are asking all these questions. I mean, again, I'm learning myself when I do research on some of these questions. If I don't know their answer, I research it a little bit. So I'm learning too. We're learning together. But there's so many questions coming in that try to minimize the time. I think 40-minute video is too long myself. 30-minute max maybe. So I'm gonna try to just choose some of the questions and answer them, and then what I don't answer on this episode, I'll answer on probably the next episode. So I'll keep doing like that. I'll maybe answer 10-15 questions per episode. So if your question's not answered on this one, check out the next one next week and see if I can get to you. But again, thank you very much for the support. Thanks for the feedback. Thank you for the questions. If y'all do have more questions after this video, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can for you. If you are interested in any of the websites or products or the other YouTubers that I mentioned, check out the description below. Just hit the show more button right below the video and it'll open up that description box for you. Let's get down to it. Again, questions from my viewers, I'm going to answer them for you. Robert Harris, he asks, how do you keep a brisket flat from drying out? That's pretty difficult to do, even for me, man. I would say you probably need to wrap it. I mean, the flat doesn't have a lot of fat content, doesn't have a lot of marbling, so it's naturally going to be dry. But wrapping it would help, especially if you put some liquid in there with the wrapping. Put some liquid in a tinfoil pouch and kind of wrap it in there. That would help. Also, injection. If you inject with some beef broth or some other type of liquid, some Cajun injection would work. Yeah, that will also spruce it up with some flavor, but it'll also help keep it moist. Matthew from Smoke On, he says, a question that I have is regarding sponsors and building relationships with food vendors. Could you please make a video explaining the process and how to reach out to initiate business relationships? Matthew, I'll tell you what, rather than do a video, I'm just going to try to answer this one as quick as I can for you, but in some detail. By all means, you need to have these people that you're trying to reach out to know that you exist. You can do that by including some of their products in your videos, and once you upload the video, put in your description box description that you're using their product and their company name in the description box. Also in your tags for your video, put either their product name or their company name in your tags. That would help. You can also tag them on social media. That's a good way to do it because they all check social media these days. So just leave a kind word about them and tag them or comment on their own social media and let them know that you're out there. The other way is just direct contact. Try to contact them by email or by phone. See if you can get somebody in marketing that would be willing to work with you. Now I will tell you up front too, if you're going to deal with a larger company, which I personally don't recommend, but if you're dealing with a very large company, you're going to go through an agent, not the company. And that could either help or hinder you. Most of the time it's going to hinder you because they're going to want to pay you, but they're also going to want to tell you how to do your video. And that's fine if you make the video, send it to them instead of putting it up on your channel. That's fine. That's money. But if you're going to put the video up on your own channel, you need to try to work with them in such a way that you have total control over your own video. You do it your way, like I do. I don't let companies tell me how to do my videos. Now, I will tell you the way that I got in with Lobels. I purchased some of their steaks, a couple of ribeyes, online from their website. And when they came in, I fired up my grill, started my camera up, and did a video on it. And about a month later, they saw that video, and their marketing person contacted me directly through email, and we exchanged phone numbers, and we have been working together for a couple of years. And I'll tell you up front, they don't support me monetarily. I don't get any money from Lobels. I don't let them tell me what to do in my videos either, though. You know, the way it's just a gentleman handshake that we have. They are a small family-owned business, which I love. I love supporting small mom-and-pop type businesses, and this just happens to be a business that's been around for a very long time. 5 generations of Lobels have been meat purveyors. They're a wonderful family, though. But they don't support me monetarily. But when I started working with them a couple of years ago, I only had about 5,000 subscribers. What they do in support of me, and I didn't even ask them to do this, they promote me on social media. They promote me on their websites. They're always putting my videos up on their websites and in their newsletters as well. They're promoting me on their newsletters every week, and that also helps. So I've gained quite a few subs just from them helping to promote me without me even having to ask for it. So if you can find a company that's kind of like that, where they let you do your own thing and they, in their own ways, support you, that's the way I would go to do it. When you start making money directly from the companies, then they're going to want to tell you what to do. And I personally don't like that. But good luck with it, man. Just let them know that you're out there. That's the main thing. Let's see. Toss Tin Man. My buddy Tim, he's got a cooking channel. Again, links down below. How do you get associated with Lobels? I just answered that for you, Tim. Yeah, great relationship. Used their product in my video. They found it. They heard that I was out there, you know, and good times. Great meat, too, man. I love it when I get a package from Lobel. Let's see. Matthew Barnes. I find that some wood offset smoker setups over smoke the meat, leaving it bitter. I've also had some of the most excellent barbecue on offsets. How do you ensure you don't over smoke your meat while using only wood? Now, you know, stick burner. The offset smokers are called stick burners because they only burn wood. I mean, you can start the fire with charcoal or something, or kindling, but once it's going, you just use sticks of wood, you know, the logs, like fireplace logs. The key to not having it over smoke your meat, though, you got to have proper airflow through your pit. And you do that by making sure you've got enough air coming into the firebox, and also you're letting enough air out of the smokestack. If you're starving the wood of oxygen, you're going to get a thick white smoke out of your stack because it's not breathing properly. If you're getting enough air, then you're going to have a nice fire in there, and you're also going to have a thin blue smoke, which is what you do want to see out of your smoke, out of your stack. So thin blue smoke's what you're looking for. If you got the billowing white smoke, you need to let more oxygen in. Open the vents up, or even crack open the door. Now, and I will say too, when you first put a log on, for about 10-15 minutes, you will get billowing white smoke because that log is needing to get on fire. You know, it's trying to catch fire. So it will smolder and smoke a little bit when it first gets on there. But after 10-15 minutes, you should see that thin blue smoke again if you have good airflow through your pit. And Matt also asks, let's see, if I've used the Kingsford Professional Series. It says it's also in a blue bag. No, I haven't, but I've tried other Professional Series briquettes, charcoal briquettes, and they tend to burn hotter. And that's because they have a little more wood in them than the regular charcoal briquettes. So you do get more flavor, but they do burn hotter. And I just choose not to use them in my Weber Smoky Mountain because I found, and the same with lump charcoal, it burns too hot. It's hard to keep the temps low to 220 and 225 where I like to cook on my Weber Smoky Mountain. If you don't mind cooking at 275, 300, use the Professional briquettes or use some lump. That would work great for you. Let's see, Michael Wyman. Hey Mike, how you doing, man? Can you tell the difference between Choice Brisket and Prime Brisket? And he's asking about flavor, texture, and tenderness. And he also asks, is it worth the money? Yes, it is most definitely worth the extra money to get Prime if you can. The Prime Brisket is a lot more tender. Just raw in the cryovac bag. If you hold it up in the middle, it's going to fold over like a U-shape, or it should anyway if it's a good one. Fold over into a U-shape on your hand. If it's a Choice Brisket, it's not going to be as tender. It's not going to be as flexible. And it's gonna have a little bit of bend, but it's not gonna be like the Prime Brisket. It's not gonna bend over like that. And the same thing with the pork ribs too. If if you look for some good pork ribs, they're gonna bend over really good. They're not gonna be straight when you try to hold them up in the middle. So that's showing you that they're very tender. And also with the prime brisket, they have more fat content. Fat is flavor. So yeah, more flavor. Tenderness is, there's no comparison. Tenderness is going to weigh heavily over on the prime side. Your choice briskets are going to be tender, but not nearly as tender as prime. And the texture of the meat, I just prefer prime. In fact, when I go to my local HEB, I don't even bother even looking at the choice steaks anymore because I like prime. I buy prime anytime I can get it. Put it that way, okay? If you can find a prime brisket and compare it side by side with a choice brisket, you'll be knocked out. It's night and day difference. Prime brisket's the way to go. And Wagyu is also very, very excellent. Oh, and another thing, prime and Wagyu cook faster than your choice briskets or even your certified Angus briskets because there's a lot more fat content. Choice is the worst. Choice is going to take the longest to cook, and then your cab or your certified Angus brisket's going to be a little bit longer than your prime, and then Wagyu is going to take the least amount of time usually because of all the fat content. And when that fat is rendering out, that fat heats up, and that also helps to cook the meat from within. That's why it cooks a little bit faster. And the same thing with your steaks. If you're doing some steaks that are Wagyu or prime, they cook faster. And that's, a lot of times, honestly, that's why you see me overcook my steaks. Because I'm using high quality meat, and unless I just want to put it on there for a minute or two on each side and take it off, and have it be really rare in the middle, which Karen doesn't like, I'd rather try to cook it a little more. But when I'm cooking those types of steaks, the difference in time from the time it gets to like 115 internal to the time it gets to about 125 internal could be 30 seconds to a minute. So it's pretty quick, and that is again why sometimes I overcook the meat a little bit, but it's all good. See what else we got here. Let's see. Bradley Von Scoit, hope I'm saying that right, Brad. To wrap or not to wrap with tin foil when smoking ribs, brisket, and pork butt. That depends on how fast you want to try to cook. I tend to just be laid back and just let it take as long as it wants. So I rarely wrap. But sometimes when it hits the stall, and it's in that stall period for quite a while, longer than I expected, sometimes I will wrap it to try to help get out of the stall and to also help it finish cooking. But towards the end, I'll unwrap it so I can crisp that bark back up again. But 99% of the time, I do not wrap. I just don't like wrapping, especially with like ribs. The ribs that I've ever wrapped, and again, it's rare, they've always come out overdone and mushy, and the bone, you can twist the bone and pull it out. That's overcooked, in my opinion. But it also inhibits your bark, as I discussed in a previous episode of Thursday Chat with Troy. So I don't like to wrap. And the only time I do is if Karen's hollering saying she's hungry, then I may try to rush it up. And if the stall's going longer than normal, because each piece is different, two briskets side by side, one may only stall for a couple hours, one may go for 4 hours. Each one's different. If that 4-hour one's kind of pushing me for having the food ready at the end of the day, I'm going to wrap it. But then I'll unwrap it at the end. Hope that answers your question, Brad. Timothy Powell, how do you choose a good brisket and trim it? I just explained that a while ago, talking about the prime and choice. Look for a very flexible brisket that's in the cryovac, or just out in the open like that. If you can pick it up, the butcher will let you. Make sure it's flexible. It bends over really nice. And you don't want a whole lot of fat on it, because when you buy that brisket, you're also paying for the fat. You're paying by weight. So if you can get a brisket that's not doesn't have a real thick fat cap on it, that's what I would go for. You only really want to get about an 1/8 to 1/4 inch fat cap, and that big hunk of fat that's really hard near the point of the brisket, you're gonna cut all that fat out anyway because it won't render down. I'll try to see if I can do a brisket trimming video one day and show you just how I trim up a brisket. Let's see what else we got. Anthony Crick, Troy, I have a question. He says, I recently bought a grill for my birthday and I've used it a couple of times, and also bought a chimney. happy birthday, Anthony. And congrats on the new cooker. He said, oh, there's a problem. Every time I cook, my food always turns out bitter and dry. What should I do? And he says, by the way, it's a kettle griddle. Well, I've never actually owned a kettle griddle, but I've got some good ideas of what the problem may be. And if you want to really see some pros in action, then you may want to check out Sal over at Root Boy Cooks. He does a great, he's always cooking on his Weber kettle. Russ, Smoky Ribs, he does a great job. Also Lyle at No Hippie Barbecue. And Dan, my buddy Dan, Mr. Smoky Goodness. Yeah, those guys can really show you how to do some stuff on a Weber kettle. So I think part of the problem is your fire's too hot, or you're cooking directly over the coals, and that's probably drying out your meat, or you're cooking it too long. You may try using less charcoal, or try separating your charcoal. You know, put the charcoal on the edges and put your meat directly in the middle, or put all the charcoal to one side and put your meat on the other side indirect. It's for the bitterness. You're getting too much smoke on your meat. Cut back on the wood that you're using. If you're using wood chips, I would soak them about a half hour before I use them. And if you're using chunks and you're using a couple of chunks, cut it back to one. If that's what you're using right now, then maybe see if you can cut one in half and use only half of a chunk. As far as the chips, I would say start off with maybe, I was going to say a cup, but a cup may be too much. I'm not sure what size your kettle is. But if you're using chips, just try cutting that like in half of what you're using right now. Try it again, see if it's still bitter. If it is, then cut back a little more. Because when I first got my Weber Smoky Mountain, I was using like 3 and 4 chunks of wood, you know, fist-sized chunks of wood. And that was too much. My food was bitter. I quickly learned that to not screw up my meat, you got to use less wood. You know, less is more. A lot of the time, less is more. So hope that helps. But check out my other fellow YouTubers, and links are below in the description box for you. They've got some great videos on the kettle. What else we have? White Thunder Barbecue. My good friend Nate. How you doing there, Nate? He's asking, what is your favorite game time food? I've got quite a few. I don't make the same thing all the time, as you know. Well, maybe you don't know, but my favorite probably would be chicken wings or jalapeno poppers. I do love both of those. I also like salsas, which Karen and I have a vegetable garden, so we make salsas all the time. And we also do the Rotel dip with Velveeta. I like that a lot. Kick it up with a little cayenne. Ain't that right, Russ? Good stuff, though. So that would be my usual go-to game time meal. What else do we have here? Aha! Mr. Smoky Ribs himself. Smoky Ribs Barbecue and Southern Cuisine out of Mississippi. How you doing, Russ? He's asking me. Let me get my paper straight here, Russ. He's asking, what TV chef over the years has been your greatest inspiration and the one that you learned the most from? He says, for me, it would be Emeril Lagasse. Yeah, Emeril really has some good stuff. I used to watch Emeril a lot. But even before Emeril, what I really remember growing up, and what really, besides being in the kitchen with my mom and my grandmother, and my dad cooked in the kitchen a lot as well. Besides that, I used to always watch on PBS. Back then, we only had, ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS, 4 channels. I would say that it would be Justin Wilson. Really loved watching Justin Wilson. And also Julia Childs. Loved watching both of those. So just growing up, I got a lot of great ideas, and I still, from time to time, I'll look on YouTube and search them out and search out their videos. So Justin Wilson, Julia Childs, but mainly Justin Wilson. Yeah, that's what I would say. See if I can answer any more questions real quick here. Paul Barbecue, what kind of music do you listen to? Paul, I listen to both kinds, brother. Country and Western. That's a whole joke. All right. I listen to country music driving up to work in the morning, and usually in the end of the day, coming home, I like to crank up some old 80s rock tunes, the classic rock kind of stuff. So I went to high school in the 80s and grew up in the 70s and early 80s, so that's what I listen to. I also like a little bit of the old 50s and 60s music. Good stuff. Good stuff. But mainly country music and the classic rock. I'm just looking through them real quick here. Oh, Chevy 1121 1947. Have you done meatloaf on the grill? Yeah, I have. I've done a classic recipe from the 1960s that was in the River Road cookbook. It's a cookbook that was produced out of, I think, New Orleans or somewhere around southern Louisiana there. I'll put that video up here for you. And also did an experiment. I thought it turned out okay. It kind of looked different. It was a seafood meatloaf. And Karen didn't care for it a whole lot, so I haven't made it again. But I thought it was a successful experiment. It tasted pretty good. And if you're interested in a seafood meatloaf, I'll put that up here for you, okay? Always got another one. Do you grow your own garden veggies? Yeah, I just mentioned it. We do Mexican-type salsas all the time. Got cilantro, you got your tomatoes, onions, serranos, jalapenos, that kind of stuff. We got a garden with all that stuff. Oh, and he's asking, where has Moonshine been? Man, I tell you, I've been after Moonshine. I just talked to him last night, in fact. For many of you that don't know, my brother Moonshine, his real name is Sean. He has a YouTube channel, Moonshine's Roadhouse, and he was doing videos for almost every week, for quite a while. But about a year ago, he met Carrie and moved down to New Orleans with Carrie, and the both of them are doing really well, enjoying life. Sean still does cook quite often, all the time, in fact, but he mainly posts pictures on Instagram and Facebook. So I'll put links to his social media down below in the description box for you. Anything else? Brandon Gurley, quick question, favorite appetizer on the smoker? I love smacked mac and cheese, buddy. Yep, that's what I would do. Grill and chill with Big Sexy. What's your favorite grill grate thermometer? That would be the Maverick ET733 wireless meat and wireless temp probe. ET733 by Maverick. Put a link down below for you. All right, I think I'm going to hold up with some of these other questions. Again, I don't want to let this run too long. So if I didn't answer your question today, I'll answer it next week. Again, thank you very much for the support, for the feedback, and for the questions. If you've got more questions, list them down below in the comments. I'll add them to my list, and we'll answer them in the future. Thanks again, everybody. I appreciate y'all joining us. If y'all love these, hope you share them, and when you do, please tell all your friends that T. Roy cooks responsibly. Cheers, everybody. Oh, yeah.